G'day, I'm Paul. Guess what? This is the Mitsubishi Triton. You guys keep asking about it and we finally found a car to review. This is the Mitsubishi Triton GLS. It's one down from the top spec model. It's priced at a little under $50,000. And if that's too much, the entire Triton range kicks off at just under 25 grand. This competes with things like the Ford Ranger, the Toyota Hilux, the Isuzu D-Max. There are stacks of competitors in this segment in Australia, and it is an incredibly competitive segment as well. Today we're going to do a detailed review of this car. If you want to skip ahead to other parts of the review, you can use the time codes up on the screen, or if you're on YouTube, just scroll down and use the chapters below. And if you haven't done so already, I'd love it if you could subscribe to our channel so you can find out every single time we drive a big red car. Okay, let's talk exterior. So you've got 7 external colours to pick from. All but white, a solid white, and this red are an additional $740. There's also a pearl white colour that's slightly more expensive. Now let's talk about the design. I'm personally a big fan of the way this looks. I think it has quite an aggressive look. You can get a stack of accessories on the front there as well that kind of hide the look if you're not a fan of it, but I think it's done a really good job of differentiating this from other utes in this segment. In terms of the design highlights, you've got that big Mitsubishi logo just here. You've got this brushed plastic look on the front, and then that 3D grille beneath it. You can see the parking sensors tucked in the front there. Over to the side, you have LED daytime running lights, full LED headlights, and we'll whip around to the side. Oh, by the way, you've got this chrome strip as well, which is kind of common to a lot of Mitsubishi models too. Around the side here, we have 18-inch alloy wheels on all-terrain tyres. You can see the design has that brushed chrome look on the outer edge, and then a matte glossy type finish on the inside there, and then the Mitsubishi on the center cap as well. There are no big wheel arches here. In fact, Mitsubishi's been a little bit restrained in terms of the design here, so it's kept it fairly sedate. I do like with the one step above this, the GSR, they've kind of gone to town on giving that the black highlights and a bit more of an aggressive look, but here in the GLS, looks nice and subdued, but still looks like it's capable of going off-road and towing things and all that kind of stuff. Over on the wing mirror, it has a chrome cap on it with the indicator built in. Got your side steps down here, chrome door handles, privacy glass. Around the back here, you have LED tail lights. Well, a portion of LED tail lights you can see at night time. That has a similar design to the Pajero Sport. DID, which is the diesel variant of this, more of that chrome strip with the camera built in. Mitsubishi logo, and then a brake light just here. Now, in terms of the actual dimensions of the tray, it has a load length of 1520 millimeters, a maximum load width of 1470 millimeters, and then a width between the wheel arches of 1085 millimeters. There's also 910 kilos of payload. So it's a pretty versatile space, but you'll notice there aren't sort of any 12-volt outlets or really anything special. You just have these hooks on the side. Even this tray liner, I don't know, it just doesn't really look that good. It's sort of just been cut out and then sort of whacked into the side. So not a huge fan of that. There's also no torsion bar here, so this is actually quite heavy to lift and open. Now in terms of towing capacity, this comes with a 3,100 kilo braked towing capacity with a maximum 310 kilo down ball weight. You can also use this as a step to retrieve things from the tray. So we are inside the Mitsubishi Triton. We'll start off with the key. So you have lock and unlock. On the back of it, you have the Mitsubishi logo. Now this is a proximity sensing key, so you just leave that in your pocket. Once you're inside, you have a push button start. Now the Triton hasn't really been updated for a little while, so this all looks fairly familiar, and even stuff like this, the dashboard and all the surrounds are very sort of harsh plastics. I think they've kind of kept on with that initial appearance of dual cab utes before they went up market, so has quite a durable feel to it. And then as you move down here, you can see this has the old infotainment system. So if you've seen our Pajero Sport review, you'll know that it has the new Alliance infotainment system. I actually prefer this older one. Yes, it is smaller, but it has more features. Now, in terms of touch points, stuff like the center console here, that is really nice and soft. This is super hard, it's just sort of rock hard. How hard is it all? Well, we've got our durometer here. We've tested all the main surfaces on this car. If you want to see how it compares to other cars that we've tested before, have a look at the link in the description. Now, what about build quality? It sort of moves around a little bit, but for the most part, the rest of this feels pretty good. Moving on to infotainment. So I mentioned earlier that this is an older version of Mitsubishi's infotainment system. It's a 7-inch unit, it's a color touchscreen, and then you have shortcut buttons on either side. In terms of radio, you get FM, AM, DAB plus digital radio. And then on the home screen here, you can see the smartphone mirroring. We have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. I'll show you what Apple CarPlay looks like first. So full screen there, and then if we flick between the menus, it's fairly fast. That also interacts with the voice recognition function. So it has its own inbuilt voice recognition system, but with a long hold, it will then send commands to your phone. You don't even have to have it paired to smartphone mirroring. It just needs to be on Bluetooth. So that's a really handy feature. And this is what Android Auto looks like. So again, a full screen integration, and just like Apple CarPlay, it's nice and quick and easy to maneuver through the menus. In terms of other features you have on the screen, it's actually pretty straightforward. So you have the ability to connect another USB device for audio streaming, and that's about it. You've got a HDMI port as well. So if you want to watch a movie or something like that, you can just plug it up and watch your movie on the small screen. Okay, let's talk about safety technologies. Some of the key standouts include autonomous emergency braking with pedestrian detection. You get this auto dimming rear vision mirror. You also have blind spot monitoring built into the wing mirror and a lane departure warning. Now, this uses a hydraulic steering rack, which means it doesn't have a lane keeping assistant. So it is pretty primitive there in terms of that technology that keeps the car inside the lane. Now, in terms of parking, you have both front and rear parking sensors and a reverse view camera. Let's have a look at that. So you get guidelines there. It also has rear cross traffic alert. It is worth pointing out that there's an optional package that's $3,000 that comes with a 360-degree camera, leather seats and electric seats along with seat heating, but obviously this car doesn't have that. Okay, quick question for you guys. So have you owned a Triton? What are they like in terms of long-term reliability? I think hearing from owners is a better indication of how these things perform instead of just trawling the internet. So let me know in the comments section below, have you owned a Triton? What was it like? And would you buy one again? Okay, moving on to practicality, and we'll start with the USB ports. So you have that HDMI port I mentioned earlier. You have two USB charging ports plus a 12-volt outlet. Then in terms of storage, your phone, where's it going to live? You can slide it down the front here. There is no wireless phone charging, but it can live down there. You've also got these two cup holders where you can slide your phone into. In terms of cup storage, this is my coffee cup. So I know a lot of you have criticized me for the size of the coffee cup, but yeah, it doesn't really fit in here. And we noticed this morning on the way here that it's just really hard to get it out. You're worried about spilling it. It's just, yeah, it's a little too deep and you have to prop it up with a key or something like that. But if you do just have a normal water bottle, it fits in perfectly fine. Now, what about our big bottle? So it doesn't fit in the center there, but does it fit inside the door? Yes, it does, which is good news. Center console, it's nice and deep. I'll show you how deep that is. Basically swallows our entire bottle. We have a glove box as well that's reasonably sized, so it'll fit the entire bottle into there. And then finally, you have a sunglasses holder up the top. Now, what about comfort? So you have dual zone automatic climate control. You have blower controls for the second row. I'll show you how they work when we're back there. Now, the seats. The seats are interesting because I mentioned earlier you can get the leather seat option. This is just the basic cloth package. Look, I'm fine with cloth seats. I just reckon these look really plain and boring. So you just got that standard black material up the top and then this sort of wetsuit material beneath it. I think they could have been a little bit more stylish with it. It just looks very generic and boring unless you spend that extra $3,000. Both the driver and front passenger seat are fully manually adjustable. The steering wheel is interesting because it's big and bulky. It sort of fills your entire hands. And then behind it, you have these giant paddle shifters and they're metallic, so they're quite cold to the touch. In terms of the steering wheel adjustment, it has both tilt and reach adjustment, and then all of your controls are actually quite easy to reach while you're driving. Now, before I hop in the back and show you how much room there is, let me let you in behind this seat so you can see a little bit of storage. I'm going to jack back here, a couple of other bits and pieces, two top tether points. Now let's hop in. Grand handle there. Let me clean the shoes. Okay, so here we are. So look, there's an okay amount of legroom. I've got my seat pretty far back, but you can see my knees are kind of just touching the back of the seat there. Toe room is okay, but not amazing. And headroom is a little compromised on the side there where I'm touching the roof. Now, in terms of storage, you have a center armrest here with two cup holders. Pop our bottle in there, that fits easily. Then let's see if our big bottle fits inside the door. Yes, it does, which is good news. What other features have you got back here? So you've got map pockets in the back of the seats. You have two ISOFIX points on the two outboard seats. And this is where your vents are. So they're not down here where you would traditionally think that they are. The vents pop out of the roof. They're controlled using these controls here, and then you can switch it on and off at the front. It is a little deceiving though, because it really is just a fan in this section that draws air in from the front and then distributes it through here. So it's not really coming directly from the air conditioning system. It's whatever the front of the cabin has. So it's good, but not an amazing solution. A little bit of storage down here, and then finally you have 2 USB ports under this little cover. Okay, so we are on the road in the Triton. Let's talk about what is under the bonnet. It is a 2.4 litre turbocharged 4-cylinder diesel engine, makes 133 kilowatts of power and 430 newton meters of torque. And that's all mated to a 6-speed automatic transmission. Now, what's that like? So 430 newton meters of torque is actually one of the lowest outputs in the segment. Most of the popular dual cab utes were at around that sort of 450 plus mark. Now they're sitting at the 500 mark, so it's really only the D-Max as one of the more popular ones that's at 450 still. So this is already behind that segment. It really does need a kick in the pants to get it up to speed with the rest of them. But behind the wheel here, what you do notice is the Triton is slightly lighter than a lot of dual cabs in this segment. So if I give it a little punch there, look, it is noticeably less torquey than its competitors, but feels like it's enough, just enough. And then on the front of the gearbox, it's snappy enough, so it'll kick back through gears when it needs to, and it's responsive enough. There just really isn't a great deal of urgency to it once you do get stuck into the throttle. Mitsubishi claims an official combined fuel economy of 8.6 litres per 100 kilometres. We're currently sitting on 10.8, so a little bit higher than that, and it sits about where most other dual cabs in this segment sit in terms of their fuel economy. Now, there are no drive modes. Well, there are some off-road drive modes, but this is something a little unique in this segment because you can drive it in 2-wheel drive to save fuel, which is what we're doing now, but you can also switch it to 4-high. Now, it's not 4-high with a center diff locked, and that's a big difference compared to other utes in this segment. You can drive this in 4-high on sealed and unsealed surfaces, so it will provide its own slip to make sure you don't bind up anything. And this is fantastic if it's raining, you're towing. It just gives you that extra confidence behind the wheel, knowing that you are driving in 4-wheel drive and you're not going to break anything as well. I'll run you through the other drive modes when we go off-road. Now, we don't have an official 0 to 100 time, but we thought we'd put it up against the stopwatch to see how it goes. Now, what about the ride quality? I think you may have noticed that my voice is a little bit jittery. It's interesting, it doesn't feel all that settled without a load in the rear, so it uses leaf spring suspension. It just feels a little bit bouncy when it comes over some of these undulations on country road at country speeds. And it doesn't feel all that compliant and doesn't feel as settled as something like a Ford Ranger does. In terms of wind noise and road noise, it is quiet enough. The engine does sort of bring a bit of noise into the cabin while you're moving along, and there is a fair bit of wind noise as well as the speed picks up. Righto, let's talk handling. Dial back here to third, tip it into our corner. Whoop. Actually feels pretty good. So it's soft through the corner, so it has a fair bit of body roll, but it's a dual cab ute, so you don't really expect too much out of it. Now, I mentioned earlier, it has that hydraulic steering rack, so it doesn't have a huge amount of feel through the steering wheel, but it feels fine, like it really is nothing to complain about. And it's light enough, which means when it comes to parking, it's not overly heavy and too cumbersome to maneuver. Okay, let's talk turning circle. 11.8 meters. It is about standard for this segment, and it's something you come to expect just given that it is a 4-wheel drive. Now, on the visibility front, where you sit here, you actually get pretty commanding position over the front of the car. You can see right down to the edges. It has front and rear parking sensors, so it's pretty straightforward to park in the city. The wing mirrors are big and they have the blind spot monitors built into them. Visibility out the rear is good as well. It's a decent sized window. So for the most part, this is actually a pretty convenient place to be seated. Okay, so it's time to do a little bit of light off-roading. Now, I need to preface this by saying it has absolutely bucketed down overnight. It looks beautiful and pleasant now, but beneath that top layer, it is super muddy and super slick. So our logs are going to be quite challenging today. So I'm going to try it in 4-high to start with and then gradually work my way up if I can't get up there. So just letting you know. Now, in terms of the drive modes themselves, so I mentioned down on the road that there's 2-high and 4-high for driving on the road. You can also go into a 4-high mode where it locks the center diff, And then you also have a 4-low mode, which uses the low range transfer case. There's also a rear diff lock as well, so it is pretty well featured. You then also have drive modes for off-road in addition to all of those settings, and that will just tailor the traction control. And finally, we have hill descent control. Now, if you want to know how all this stuff works and why it is so important to use the right setting when you're off-road, click up here to watch our 4-wheel drive controls explained video. Now, in terms of the 4-wheel drive specs themselves, 220 millimeters of ground clearance. You have a 31-degree approach angle. That's the angle of the face you can approach before you hit anything at the front. 23-degree departure angle. That's the same angle, but in reverse. So in terms of 4-wheel drive specs, that's about on par with the rest of the competitors in this segment. So let's try our hill. I'm going to start off with the center diff locked, and we will see how we go. So you can see the indicator on the screen there tells us when that's active. So it says it's in gravel mode. I'm going to change that to mud and snow. We'll give this a little shot. Here we go. Can have a little bit more momentum as well, because it is super greasy and slippery. I can already feel it slipping. Oh, go, 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 go. We are almost there. Go, go, go. Yes, we made it. All right, good, good. It was getting super sketchy up the top there, but we got there in the end. And I can see as I'm driving up here, we are leaving tire marks in the ground there and the wheels are slowly filling with mud. Okay, let's give this a shot now as we come down over our rocks. Now I suspect we're going to touch down here simply because the ground clearance here isn't absolutely massive. 220 mil is about run of the mill. Let's just maneuver over this. A little crunch just here. No, it actually cleared that. That was good. There you go. Okay, that's good. That is impressive. Drop a wheel in just here. This is feeling good so far. It's really not throwing us around much either, which is great. Look at that wheel off the ground. I'm going to pop hill descent control on. So there it is. Their little icons come up. I'll let go of the brake. This is really good, actually. It's descending at an excellent rate and it's keeping everything nice and steady too. It's actually probably one of the best examples of hill descent control we've seen, especially in this muddy condition here where it's sort of, it doesn't have much traction to begin with. It's actually doing a really good job. Okay, Mitsubishi Triton. So I'm going to be 100% honest here. It doesn't really lead this segment in any way. The 4-wheel drive system probably is one of the best ones in the segment because you can actually drive it as a 4-wheel drive or a 2-wheel drive on sealed surfaces. But in terms of technology, the drivetrain, the towing capacity, it's always that one step behind most of the other competitors. But where it does win is on value. And in Australia, this comes with a 10-year warranty. I mean, it's a bit of a no-brainer for me. If you want to save some money and have an excellent warranty and a car that is pretty durable as well, I think this is an excellent option. But if you're wanting the best in the segment, you're probably going to want to look elsewhere. So let me know in the comments section below. Are you a value buyer? Do you buy this because you want to save a bit of money? Or do you just go straight for the most expensive one you can buy? Keen to get your thoughts in the comments section below. Now, if you did enjoy this video, make sure you like it and share it with your friends. And if you haven't done so already, make sure you subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon as well. But until next time, take it easy.